This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.
To use Knight's word, singular or memorable motif or idea, that would really be the heart of the score. And I would be much more disciplined about what music I was using in what scene. Why was I playing this theme here? Did this theme have anything to do with storytelling? How can we tell a scary idea? Signs is a good example. Signs has based on 3 notes. Knight wanted me to use those 3 notes in everything. So I had to figure out a way of doing it in a scary way, which I did in the main title, but it's also in a quite emotional and evocative way in a few places where it's quite beautiful, where I changed the harmonies and I changed the notes. And so what he did, he changed the way I wrote music, quite frankly.
Wow.
It did change. I became more disciplined. It's about more austere, I would say. My writing is more austere with his movies. And I can go to other places. I'm not stuck in austerity forever, but that was a place I had to get to whenever I was working with Knight. And it was great. It was really had a defining sound. It really fit his movies. It started me writing music before I saw the movie, which is something I still do, which I think is really helpful. So yeah, that was a meaningful collaboration.
I think your work on The Village is great, and I think that movie overall is pretty underrated. I love that score so much.
I couldn't agree. I mean, I wrote a completely different score for that movie.
Oh wow!
Early on, and because I think the studio wanted it to be more of an action movie, so I was trying to write more of an action score, and we would watch the movie and just seem to be completely out of sync emotionally. And so Knight said, well, what else can you do? And I said, well, what if we write something that's really from the blind girl, I can't remember her name now, perspective. And I thought of a female solo violin. And I was fortunate enough to have Hilary Hahn play all the violin parts on that. And it was beautiful. Yeah.
You illuminate something that it strikes me that people may have this misconception that composers just write a score and hand it over, and the director and studio say, "Great, now it's done." But in talking about, I'm curious, like from your perspective, that collaboration process, and also serving the director's vision or serving the studio's vision, does that get frustrating for you? And how do you kind of navigate that while maintaining true to what you believe is good work, but also serving the other people who have their own visions for the film?
Yeah, I mean, that's almost like a fundamental challenge of the job. It's writing is easy, rewriting is what you end up doing in the film music world. And once you've had a piece of music rejected 4 or 5 times from the director, it's very easy to go down the slippery slope of trying to just make the director happy. And you articulated it very well, and sort of selling your soul to the devil. It takes a lot of patience to navigate that. I found that I was reluctant to rewrite. Well, let's see. What was my reluctance? I was asking myself, why was I so, did I want to strangle a director for not liking a piece of music? And I realized that part of it came down to just the physical discomfort. The physical challenge of getting yourself up again and emotionally as excited the second, the third, the fourth time around that you were the first time is very, very difficult. Now, if you have a strong director involved, then you don't need to worry too much about other people who are in the mix. Some producers, maybe some studio executives, although studio is always going to be a force, and I understand that.
Hey, here we are once again. John and I are tackling another beloved film composer, and that is James Newton Howard. Once again, he is another just prolific film composer. He also wrote and did backup instrumentals for artists such as Elton John, Toto, Rod Stewart, and Crosby, Stills, and Nash. He has composed movies such as Major League, King Ralph, Pretty Woman, Marked for Death, Guilty by Suspicion, Flatliners, The Prince of Tides, Glengarry Glen Ross, Falling Down, Dave, Wyatt Earp, Outbreak, Primal Fear, Liar Liar, The Devil's Advocate, A Perfect Murder, Unbreakable, The Emperor's Club, Treasure Planet, Collateral, Batman Begins with Hans Zimmer, Blood Diamond, Michael Clayton, The Great Debaters, and more recently, movies such as Salt, Larry Crown, Water for Elephants, The Hunger Games, The Bourne Legacy, Nightcrawler, Detroit, and News of the World. Once again, welcome back to the show, John.
Always good to be here.
So I must confess, I was somewhat familiar with some of his TV work, also like The Sentinel and From the Earth to the Moon. Apparently recently did a series of Unfortunate Events TV show for Netflix. And apparently he does the logo theme for Sony Pictures Animation and Imagine Entertainment since '96, Brian Grazer and Ron Howard's company. So I would always see him listed, and I knew he was a collaborator with Hans Zimmer on a few different big, moments. But for whatever reason, I would often get him mixed up with like Alan Silvestri or James Horner, mainly the latter. He seemed like he was just one of those. He would do more subtle themes instead of just the grandiose, epic kind of scores.
Yeah.
He wasn't known for doing very moody pieces like Philip Glass or Howard Shore, and he was less like Mark Mancina or Alexander Desplat, where he would mix in some classical with some, electronic and rock overtones. And
That's true.
he is interesting in how he kind of he just became kind of the everyday man composer in a way.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, because there is no consistency in either his scores or the kinds of movies he's doing either. So I do find that interesting, and he has worked a shit ton with M. Night Shyamalan and recently Francis Lawrence of I Am Legend and Hunger Games and Red Sparrow fame. And I do find it interesting how he's kind of just an underdog in a way.
Yeah, I could see him being called that, particularly with a lot of films he had done, which spans all across different genres, which is fascinating to see when you go back and listen to some of those scores.
Yeah. And Wikipedia doesn't really seem to note how he does work a ton with Ivan Reitman. It's like, yeah, those are some big comedic scores and gotten a lot of award noms. And I had no idea he did the theme for ER, but that makes sense to me.
I didn't even know that till now.
Speaking of Howard Shore, he did replace Shore on the 2005 King Kong. So, some of his award nominations are kind of scores that, I don't know, I know the movies, I just don't really think about the scores. So I thought that was interesting. It's like he got some nominations for films such as, The Fugitive and Best Friend's Wedding and the Michael Clayton score, but he also got Academy Award noms for like Nightcrawler, Maleficent, and even freaking Defiance, Edward Seawick's World War II movie. I'm like, what? Okay. I mean, those are very good. It's just, it's not that I find them forgettable. It's just he kind of, it's tough to describe. He really does good with the movie, but it's kind of just, he picks a lot of movies that are just kind of, for me, just, I just take it all in one at a time. It's just intriguing. So
It's the same with me. Like some of those you don't really listen to the score separate from the movie, and those are the perfect cases.
I mean, I will definitely try to do my best and do that more. He apparently got a Grammy nom for Signs, Blood Diamond, but I especially love All the Way. That movie just stuck with me. That LBJ movie with Anthony Mackie and Bryan Cranston for HBO. So
I didn't see that one yet.
for whatever reason, I do kind of remember a bunch of the cues because it just, again, he knows how to kind of complement the mood in the room without taking away. He hasn't done too many movies which are, you know, patriotic per se, or grim or gritty or even gruesome, really.
That's true.
So it's interesting because most everyone else seems to go for just, you know, the giant bucks, where it's like, sure, I'll do this cult horror movie that'll be, you know, be talked about for years, you know, I'll creep people out.
And sometimes some of his scores can be actually the best part of the movie.
That, well, yeah, especially at establishing a mood and or a tone. And I find it interesting with even these action movies, he really doesn't do so much electronic. He just kind of does a lot of mellow trumpets, and it mixed in with just some other kind of classical instruments. I guess I would probably remember A Perfect Murder score just because that does get intense, but it's it's kind of one of those, if I were to describe it, I would probably describe it as just very dramatically rewarding.
Kind of the same thing I would describe his Star Echo score, which was very moody with his creative use of the piano during certain scenes.
That's definitely a score I can vouch for. So, yeah, he's a kind of like a character actor steals the show in something. His scores are just character pieces.
Yeah.
Compared to other people who just kind of, again, and with all respect to them, they kind of become their own entity. So, like when you watch a Spielberg or Scorsese movie, you're analyzing the cinematography separate from the directing, performances, art direction, and even the scores. So, or makeup for that matter. So, it's wild how those big movies, everyone stays in their lane and they all stand out in their own special way.
Yeah.
For better or worse. And he kind of just blends in with the movies. And so if you like the movie, generally, you're going to probably also like the score. It's just that he's done, again, he's another one. He's just done so much that it is hard to keep up with. And
yeah,
I wasn't able to find as many of his on iTunes last, but I could check again. But
I'm sure some of them are on there.
Oh, they have to be. I'm just saying, I don't know. I kind of just more even underseen ones by other composers. So, I mean, obviously there was Trevor Rabin, but there was the guy who did Olympus Has Fallen. I'll look him up in a bit.
Oh, I should know this.
Another
I'm forgetting.
Which starts with a T, and you know, there was Brian Tyler, and you know, I saw some people shit talking him, and I think he does a banged up job generally. Yeah, Trevor Morris, that's who it was.
That's him. Yeah.
He had done a bunch of TV like Vikings, and Tudors.
It's also interesting. I was looking at some of his films. Like one's like Dante's Peak, which ironically piqued my interest because I didn't realize he had done the theme for that one.
Yeah, that has.
Same with Liar Liar.
Yeah, it kind of does almost. I don't know why. I kind of thought that was Jerry Goldsmith, so I think that's just it.
I thought that too.
Kind of just blends in with a lot of these guys. Funny how that works.
Yeah.
So what can you say appeals the most about him?
Well, like I said before, he's one, just like a lot of other composers. You mentioned that is very diverse. He didn't stick to one genre. He likes to expand within his filmography, and he didn't stick to just one director like John Williams would do at times, or
Yeah.
even Hans Zimmer. But he managed to create different themes for each film, and each of them were able to fit the theme of the film quite well. But sometimes not so much, but it depends upon the director.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely say I've heard a bunch of his music because, you know, I listen to all the different big ones. So I've definitely heard his material with Rod Stewart and Diana Ross, of all people, and even freaking Elton John. So he's in there. I saw a Bob Seger credit. I saw a few other ones and Toto. So yeah, he's been there. It's just a matter of, again, it's just so many different avenues compared to some of the other ones we did where it's like, yeah, just navigate.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting. Particularly, like I said, with some of the films he did. Although the first one, I guess I could say I remember quite well, along with the soundtrack for this, with Space Jam, which I didn't realize was him.
Yeah, even the Wikipedia article, this is the first one they listed. I'm like, oh, okay, it piqued your interest. But like you say, he does way more comedy scores. I mean, again, you know, Major League and Liar Liar, those are big comedy mega hits. So again, I definitely have heard more of his scores than I realize I've heard. But again, it's just when you intake so much movies, you know, from day one, it is hard to put all together. And I know we're sounding ignorant. It's like, again, we're just reflecting back, and I have heard some of his scores, especially the Hans Zimmer collaborations, and those are kind of interesting, trying to detail what is, you know, Zimmer obviously does the, you know, main theme, and he kind of just does, I guess, more of the character. That's kind of his. So I guess hitting on it, that's his signature, is just the character thinking to himself, and, you know, in a closed off place, and you instantly know that, okay, you know, we're closing in on it, hearing what he has to say. But, you know,
and he's subtle with that. He is not overbearing. Like
it is more subtle, yes. And that is the weird part. And it sounds like we're kind of giving him a lowdown. What we're trying to say is basically he essentially just, he makes it more natural instead of, you know, you know, you know, it's just, and that's not a bad thing at all. It really isn't. And
no, it's not.
I lie. I do remember the Michael Caine score because I've seen that movie so many times, and I think, you know, again, George Clooney's not playing George Clooney, and it's just a good conspiracy thriller, and everything's just so natural in that movie as a whole. Like the villain's, you know, natural descent into being a secretive, you know, psycho who's willing to kill people just to make things go away. She just thinks she's separate from it because I didn't actually, you know, pull the knife or the trigger, so I'm just gonna have to just, you know, soak for all night and I'll be fine. And seeing, you know, again, the protagonist realize his car blew up, it was destined for him, and just kind of melt down, just like, what do I do now? I can't go home, I can't do this. And so yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like someone must have, the minute he was on Major League, you know, Ivan Reitman, I'm sure, saw it and said, this guy, I need him to do my comedy scores. He knows how to do it low key without, you know, getting the tones confused, you know, because Ivan Reitman does do serious comedies, you know, he doesn't do campy, you know, like say Police Academy. He doesn't do.
True.
He doesn't do frat movies really, and so yeah, you don't see any American Pie or Girl Next Door type credits. Nothing against those movies. Just saying, he does kind of more of just the slapstick kind of comedy scores, and I think that is underrated because there's so many other scores where I would be watching, like, say, a movie with a comedian, and when it gets serious in those last 20 minutes, you're like, oh, but can we go back to the funny? I get that you're trying to do a movie, but something got confused in the tone here.
Yeah.
So now it's unintentionally more silly than it needs to be because I just wasn't with that mode at all this whole time. So I'm glad you brought up the Sturtevant score because that is definitely the first thing I remember about that movie, more so than the various visions and acting and cinematography. So where do you think his career really keeps rising? So like I mentioned, kind of Major League as the first hit off and The Fugitive as like the first big thriller mystery score. I like the Flatliners one, but that's kind of more of a horror mystery. So
Yeah, it's a more cool mystery.
That would be where he kind of starts in the fantasy realm of things. But where do you think he gets way more recognized?
I was trying to think of which what was he more recognized for, because he has so many.
The Defiant score is good. I have heard that one, and that is an underrated movie where it showed the world that Daniel Craig didn't have to just play James Bond in the same year. But I do want to give some thought to Blood Diamond, and I think the reason that's getting some award noms is just because instead of just going with just African chants and other, overseas kind of percussion, he kind of went and he didn't, do a bunch of brutal, scores, so to speak, like you might get in a Rambo movie. Or Saving Private Ryan. He kind of went with more of a, it's weird, just kind of more natural horns section. And
I can say that. Yeah.
That's definitely why I think it complemented the visualness of characters realizing they have to man up. They have to raid the diamond factory. They have to, he's not going to get his son back overnight. So I think that's just that it complemented the whole, just, you're not going to have any loss, but you're going to have to suffer for like a month here and then, man up, steal some weapons. And, he, especially, I think the score is at its best during the last three betrayals that occur in the second act of the movie. And that for me works because, again, the music is not intrusive or it doesn't get too loud during every single, punch out or shoot out. And I could say that about the sound in general. I think sound mixing is very underrated, and I can't ever say there's a moment where the guns or the dialogue are too small, too lowered, or too big. It's just right. It's just very natural. And kudos to him. What would you like to see him score? I know he's from Southern California University, but he dropped out. So it's too good. He's too good.
I guess so. It's interesting. It feels like he's explored almost every genre at this point. But I guess I'd be curious to hear more scores for him for like the horror genre, maybe even more of the action genre. Just I'd be curious to hear how he would take on more of that nowadays.
Right? Father's Day is an interesting one in that it's basically known for having a bunch of talents and funny cameos and just wasting its whole premise. And yet some people every once in a while will go in, I'll see and say, oh, woulda, shoulda, could have been a bigger movie, or it's kind of underrated, but it's not a good movie per se. And I definitely recall that score being very just low key, but in more of a just kind of at every corner. Like it was transition music, so to speak.
Yeah.
a quote that he has on hand. Thank you, IMDb. I wish I had some great words of advice. The only advice I haven't ever been able to give anybody is to focus on writing music. And if you're writing a movie score particularly, don't worry about the picture. Just write great music and the rest will take care of itself.
Well, if only more composers can articulate their thoughts like that.
He is apparently the older brother of actor Arliss Howard, who you might remember from Lost World, Jurassic Park, and Full Metal Jacket. So I did not know that.
I didn't know that either.
He's a brother-in-law, Richmond Arquette, and Patricia. Who was he married to of those Arquettes? So many Arquettes. Oh, so he was married to Rosanna for a year. Gotcha. As well as Asian B-movie actress Bree Howard, who you might know from as a singer.
Oh, yeah.
She's been in everything, like Tape Heads and the running kind. So, yeah, no, he turned down the opportunity to do The Dark Knight Rises, saying Nolan and Zimmer were more of a partnership than all of them combined. I'm okay with that. He got to do way bigger scores. I don't recall the score for that one at all. That's on Zimmer.
Well, I'm sure it was a lot of noise, just like Dark Knight was. So that's all I'll say about that.
Mm-hmm.
Some people love that. I don't.
Yeah.
You like noise? Well, I'm happy for you. Me, no.
Alrighty. So 74 wins and 116 nominations.
Wow.
So not as many wins as, say, Giacchino, but could easily get up there.
I'm sure he will at some point.
He literally is 10 wins behind. So if you're going to tell everyone to get into his scores, which ones are going to be the first 5 you recommend?
Wow.
I'm putting you on the spot today, man. You got to talk.
Oh, I know. Trying to think. Well, I think, like you said, I would definitely say Stuff Echoes, Perfect Murder. I go Unbreakable as well.
Very nice pick, because I'm looking at the Shyamalan ones, and I know that the rest of them are like it or hate it movies, but I kind of very vaguely remember the Lady in the Water score, but the Unbreakable one was very cool because it was kind of like a more mysterious X-Files kind of score or Candyman score where I just let everything unfold, and I'm not surprised when it hits me on my ass and I'm like, whoa. Especially during the
most of the Shyamalan
emotional, the drowning segment especially is interesting because most people kind of go for more just disturbing or a traumatic kind of score, and he goes for more of a oh no, kind of keep you on your standstill, remind you from afar that you can't do anything about it, but he still kind of keeps it a little neutral, like there might be an ounce of hope, So that is definitely an interesting score segment.
I'd probably say like the last 2 would probably go Collateral and Falling Down.
Falling Down, definitely recommend. And when I was mentioning Collateral, is like, that's right. He basically did the opening and end credits, and the rest is, individual, much like Heat in Thief. It's just individual music that, Michael Mann picked out.
Yeah.
From the roots and what have you. So that is interesting that he essentially just, he just set up the mood, and then he kicks in like post nightclub sequence. His scores finally kick in for like 3 different segments. Falling Down is definitely an emotional one. It's probably the first. That or Liar Liar have to be one of the first few movies I saw, definitely, and by him. And especially during the climax, both the opening and the climax, he just compliments just the sunny LA Streets, but he kind of, much like the other Schumacher efforts he's done, he kind of just he keeps it not so much neutral as he does just kind of like, this could change at every minute, but he's giving you kind of a, I'm unhappy here, I need to change.
Right, he sets the tone beautifully on that one.
Totally.
And it continues throughout the film.
Very well said. So yeah, those are some good picks, but I am just really surprised. I would have thought like Silvestri, he might have been on something like The Predator, or he might have done, I don't know, maybe a Back to the Future kind of thing. I was like, nope, other than Batman, he stayed clear of franchises and kind of just did more, again, just individual movies. And I had no idea he had all this award reception and scored ER of all. So I guess, yeah, 2 franchises. That's it. He did a Harry Potter movie recently, but again, like that was years down the road. He's literally at the 5th stage of his career. Did Jungle Cruise, but
I don't think anybody remembers that score.
I don't think anyone remembers it unless they're a bigger action adventure buff, and just.
Even then, I don't think they'll remember it.
I can definitely recommend News of the World, because that was a mixture of kind of post-war Western, and so that one was interesting because it almost reminded me of Unforgiven.
Okay.
But less gritty and kind of more, surprising. But yeah, various people have done compilations of his work. And even when you bring him up, you'll find everything from NPR articles to Spotify and Apple playlists. But that's got to be something for someone who's a music arranger, songwriter, producer, and a keyboardist. And in the world of soft rock before, becoming a film composer. Overall, where do you rank him? I definitely think he's up there, but he might be in my 50. I don't think he would be my top 10
Yeah,
20.
that's what I was going to say. Be around 50. Definitely not in the top 10 or even top 20, I'd say. But he's definitely, I would say, influential and solid composer.
It's just interesting, though, because he looks like an everyday kind of Joe. When you see his photo, it's like, he almost reminds me of the one Tony Slattery guy from Mad Men. I'm like, yeah, I would not recognize him every day.
No, I wouldn't either.
Well, thank you ever so much for being on here.
We'll return after these messages.
If you like small town mystery, crazy news, and wild history, then the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast is for you. Each week, Josh Mills and Wayne McCarty bring you the absolute best Florida has to offer. So if you're looking for a show that's safe for the family, but funny enough to help you escape everyday life, then listen to the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast. That's Florida Men, plural, on Florida Man podcast.
Do you ever find yourself thinking about who would win in a fight between Goku and Superman? Hi, I'm James Gavsey, and on the Who Would Win show, me and my co-host Ray ignore anything important happening in the outside world and debate fictional battles between characters from comics, movies, and video games.
We got a new show every week, and almost always am I the winner.
Yeah, not true, Ray.
In the past, we've discussed such matches as Captain America versus Darth Vader, Solid Snake versus the Iron Giant, classic matchups like RoboCop versus Terminator, and even the Muppets versus Sesame Street.
That one was crazy. So if you're a fan of geek culture and love a spirited debate, check out the Who Would Win show wherever you get your podcasts, or check us out at whowouldwinshow.com.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up